I am probably going to take a guess right now and say most players or even a lot of people are probably looking at some of the current racing games being out, or I guess you could even say games in general, going, okay, so some of these games or these newer games are kind of, I'm going to go back in time a bit. Funny part is, I did also want to do the exact same thing. I was looking at some old Need for Speed games, which I'm still going to do that, so stay tuned for it. I do have a lot of videos playing on that stuff, but I was like, you know what, man, let me go back into a different game which is going to be Dirt 4 in 2025. This game did end up coming out around 7 or so years ago, so it's decently old, but even with Dirt 4 coming out back in 2017, I was noticing players going, yo, this is the worst Dirt game ever. So I was like, you know what, let me go back into this game and try this out a bit. So I did want to touch on some of the things I like about this game in this video, but also some of the reasons why players probably didn't like it compared to previous titles. Now, I'm sure many probably know that I was going in last year looking at old Need for Speed games like Need for Speed 2015, Payback, and stuff like that, pretty much revisiting them in 2024. Now that we're going to be in 2025, I also want to revisit some old games, including the Dirt series, starting off with Dirt 4, and yes, I'm going to do videos on Dirt 5, and I'm also going to have plans for older games for that matter, so do stay tuned for it. But the reason why I did want to play Dirt 4 in 2025 is, well, again, this game is going to be around 7+ years old now. I was like, I did see a lot of people hating on it. Let me jump into it and try this game out. Now, don't get me wrong, guys. Before making this video, I pretty much beat the entire game. Because funny thing is, I was enjoying Dirt 4 a good amount when I was playing it. And I think my favorite part about this game, now again, I am running a controller. I'm not like on a sim rig or something. I would probably say some Dirt games like Dirt Rally or stuff like that's probably better on a rig. But then again, I'm sure a lot of players are also running a controller, so it is going to be a different type of viewpoint on that. But I would still even say players still want to enjoy it from a different view, like a controller or even like a rig. Either way, though, when I was playing Dirt 4, there was things I did like about this game, like I admit it. But also on top of that, there was things about this game that I wasn't the biggest fan of. The first thing I did want to talk about that I did like, though, is going to be the driving physics. Now, don't get me wrong, I wouldn't say they're going to be the most perfect thing out there, but I would say they're probably going to be fairly decent. Using the rally cars and flying down the road and stuff like that, like you had the pavement roads, you had like the snow, you had like nighttime and all that stuff, which I do know every rally game has different settings, but I would say they all really had a different experience. Like, surprisingly, on like the asphalt part, the cars did handle pretty dang good. When you would then go into the dirt, I would also say the cars had some decent handling. They wouldn't like slide all over the place. You wouldn't feel like you were like driving on icicles or whatever, or pretty much on like skis, pretty much on like an ice rink or something, where the cars would like slide everywhere. Kind of like rails, I guess, which some games kind of mess up with when going really fast and all that. But the thing is, though, when I was doing some of the races on the asphalt, I was like, these cars handle better than I thought they would. We all do know sometimes in like a dirt focused game that, you might be on the dirt, the physics are going to be great, but you get on the asphalt and the cars forget how to handle. Luckily in Dirt 4, I wouldn't say that was going to be the case. Now, some people might be like, well, Block, what was your favorite part of racing in Dirt 4? To be honest, I would probably admit right now it's most likely going to be the snow area, because for some odd reason the entire snow track, man, was just so entertaining to me. The clip you guys will see in the background is going to be me in that one Audi Quattro thing, which is probably one of my favorite cars to race rally in Dirt 4. That was going to be on one of these snow tracks. Like, you have a tiny area you're racing in, you have these snowbanks on both sides, the entire map is really pretty, which I do admit, for this game coming out in 2017, man, the graphics are honestly pretty nice. Like, I like it. I would say, yeah, you might not see the most perfect things with how games are nowadays, but I'm going to say something a bit subjective right now. Sometimes the best graphics in a game doesn't necessarily mean the game is good. Had to say it, going to touch on that in a future video, but I feel like that's fairly accurate. When I was racing in the snow region, though, like, yeah, it's going to be pretty dang bright. You're going to have to be really precise on how you turn going around different areas and stuff, because if you go too sharp, you'll hit the bank, you'll flip over. If you're going too fast in one area, like a turn comes up, you don't slow down enough, you run into the bank and stuff like that. So I did really enjoy the snow part of it. And part of that could probably come down to me being, okay, so I'm going to have to be really precise. I enjoy this type of driving. Don't get me wrong, though, sliding off the road sometimes is probably going to be a pretty fun thing to do, like drifting around it. And these you're not really going to have the time to drift, or at least be able to really do it. On other events, you could probably go off the road a bit and be fine, but in this one, if you smash into it, might break your tire, might pop it, might flip over, might mess your car up. So I do understand that stuff behind it. The other thing I liked about Dirt 4, and who knows, this might end up sounding a bit dumb, but I did like the way the racing was in the rain and also the nighttime driving. For some odd reason, I like the atmosphere of the rain, like it coming down kind of hard, the water spitting up everywhere. Driving in first person mode and seeing like the rain going down the windshield. I do understand some of these things are probably going to be small, but most people are like, yo, why do you like the rain driving? Makes the cars worse and all that. But I feel like it's the overall atmosphere that's going to be on that track when you are racing in the rain. The other thing I did mention before, though, is the nighttime driving. Doing some of the rally events at nighttime, man, they were so dang entertaining. It is going to be pretty insane going like 80, 90 miles an hour down some of these areas. Going, okay, so turn right here, turn left, you mess up, you might bounce off like a side piece or something. Might hit like the wall, might hit like a tree or something. Now, again, I'm not the best driver out there. Kind of just jumping on these games to have a great time. I was able to beat everything on a decently high difficulty. So, like, yeah, I'm probably not going to be a pro, but at least I can drive around these forests at nighttime, which I would say is a plus. Really can't see much, but the way they have the nighttime set up, man, the headlights actually work. We all do know in certain games you can race at nighttime, but if you can't see anything because your headlights aren't really working that great, then what is it going to be when it comes to the nighttime experience, right? Probably isn't going to be there. So I have to admit though, even though Dirt 4 isn't perfect, I still really did enjoy it. But on top of that though, guys, I also have to talk about the things I did not like about the game and some of the odd things or odd decisions they did end up doing in it. So we all do know that this is going to be Dirt 4. Obviously, we had Dirt 3, Dirt 2, we had Dirt 5. We all do know there's going to be like Dirt Rally, stuff like that, WRC, all those games. But here's the thing though, when playing Dirt 4, there's something I noticed legit right off the bat when I was jumping into it, trying out different classes, which if you are wondering, yes, there's going to be a few different things like these stadium trucks. Here's the thing, guys, this is the first thing I did want to talk about. Yes, the stadium trucks are quick. They're going to be decently fun to use, but here's the problem. I noticed many of the tracks are probably going to be fairly boring, like there's not a lot going on with them, and you're pretty much going around in some tight turns and all that, like they're going to be three-geared vehicles, they do like 100 or so miles an hour. Like sure, the physics on them are still going to be pretty good and all that, but the biggest issue I had, man, was the tracks though. We all do know you probably have to go around the tracks maybe 2 to 3 laps on average, something like that. You're also going to have to do the tournaments, which is legitimately the same track over and over, but the tracks are just not going to be all that fun to do though. I was hoping for more jumps in them. Most of the time they have like a lot of turns and all that. Like, yeah, you're going to have nighttime in one thing. It's going to be the exact same track though. They might end up reversing it, but normally it's going to be a few turns, maybe some bumps and all that, which on some of them you're probably going to have to avoid the bumps, that way you can be quicker on it. And that is basically going to be it. Like, I admit, I feel like the trophy trucks, or if you want to call it a stadium truck, which in some ways they're a tad different, I really do think they honestly missed the mark pretty hard in that category. Now, I do understand the main focus of Dirt 4 for them, I would probably guess, is the, probably the rally part of it with the actual rally cars, which I understand, but here's the thing though, you can also throw in something like buggies in there and other classes to make this even more interesting. This is one of the reasons why Dirt 2 was my legit favorite dirt game ever. Stay tuned for that, guys. I will be going over that in the near future, but the other class we also had in this game was going to be like the miniature buggy type of things, or I guess you could say maybe like an off-road, like specialized go-kart type of thing, maybe? Is that what you want to call it? I mean, I think that's what it is. But either way, though, when you were driving this, there was going to be a pretty fast little go-kart type of thing, does like 90 miles an hour. It does feel like you're moving in ways, but the thing is, though, how many players are really going to want to drive this car around compared to like a rallycross vehicle or something like that, going around a track on a small area? You have like the Joker thing. That is going to be a lot more fun, which I do understand the Doom Buggy things had that as well in a way. But I just feel like players might end up doing these small tracks on like these tiny like go-kart Doom Buggy things going, okay, I would rather use a rallycross vehicle or even a trophy truck, which I do feel like the most things I did see about Dirt 4 is players seem to like the main rally part of it more than anything else, like the longer tracks, we had to go quicker on them, different cars, and you know what, I admit that was also probably my favorite part. And there's also going to be a reason for that. Like, I did enjoy doing the longer races, driving something like the Audi, the Subaru, going into the snow, doing some of the mountain stuff, being in the rain, being in nighttime. I just really enjoyed the tracks. Also, like, the asphalt-based tracks are pretty dope. The thing is, though, when I was jumping in, wanting to do some of the races again, I just really did not have a desire to drive like that small go-kart doom buggy thing around a track. Don't get me wrong, I do understand you had to do it, which part of the game and all that, but still, man, like, I just had no desire to do it. I was actually doing some of the trophy truck races, getting through them. I was enjoying them a little bit. Then I started to realize how repetitive those races honestly were. All I wanted to do at that point was to get them done and basically never look back. I was having a lot more fun doing the main rallycross events in the cars and all that. Those were dope. Going around like these smaller tracks, having the Joker area, those were really dope. On top of that, the overall like rally racing on the longer tracks is probably my favorite part with the main rallycross events. Besides that, man, like, in a lot of ways, I was looking at the trophy truck or like the stadium trucks. I guess, you know, tomato, tomato. Again, I know they're different. But in this game, I guess they're going to be considered a stadium truck or whatever. Then you're going to have the Doom Buggy like go-kart type of thing, which I do feel like a lot of players might end up doing those and basically never wanting to do them again. That was basically the boat I was in. Like, once I did them, I'm like, nah, I'm done with these now. Get me to the rallycross and the main rally events. Those are just so much better. And you know, I guess the best way I can put it though is I feel like the stadium truck thing and also like the dirt buggy type of thing were basically going to be afterthoughts compared to everything else. But besides all of that though, I would like to know your thoughts on Dirt 4 in the comments below. What are some of the things you liked about this game? What are some things you didn't like about it? And would you considering playing Dirt 4 in 2025? Is it worth it? Is it not? To be honest, I would say it might be pretty dang fun for a bit, but you will end up most likely seeing some of the flaws the game did end up having once you start playing it a bit. As I did mention, I'm also going to be doing a video on Dirt 5, so do stay tuned for it, and much more coming in the future.